What's up, guys? My name is Cipriano. Today we're going to talk about some basic tips and stuff you can do to help prevent suicide. So if you don't know me, I'm just going to give you a quick backstory so you have an idea of why I'm making this video. So I'm currently a life coach in training. I have a 4-year degree from Southern New Hampshire in applied psychology, and I just spent the last year and a half working in an inpatient psychiatric facility. As part of my life coach certification, I have to take a suicide prevention course, and it's actually the first time I've had to do this. Even after spending a year working with suicidal and depressed people in a psych hospital and taking a degree in psychology. So I thought it was important just to make this video, just to give you some quick tips and pointers on how to deal with people who are suicidal and how to ask the right questions and hopefully prevent some suicides. All right, so I know it's kind of a heavy topic, suicide, but I like talking about depression and suicide. It's something I feel like I understand, and we're gonna try to make it kind of fun while you learn about it today. So the main thing I wanna tell you before we really get into like all the tips and stuff is you should be candid and open about talking about suicide. This is our main reason why suicide is such a tragedy, because it's something that can totally be prevented, and it's something that people give signs about before typically they do an attempt or commit. So my certification course was through the QPR Institute. There's a clinical psychologist named Paul Quinnett that came up with this method, and it's pretty much what I believe to be the most basic and simple way to pretty much help people who are suicidal. So the main idea behind QPR is that you actually ask the questions when someone presents signs of suicidal ideation. Hey, are you feeling suicidal? Or you can ask in a more indirect way if you're not comfortable asking that. Do you feel like you want to go to sleep and not wake up? Have you thought about not wanting to be alive anymore? You can ask questions like that. But that's the main thing, is that suicides happen and signs were given, and we actually never attempt on trying to figure out what's going on and solve the problem for the person, right? We're uncomfortable talking about it because there's a stigma, and then tragedies happen that could have been prevented. All right, so just as a quick stat to kind of get you interested, there are 800,000 suicides done every year, completed every year. 800,000. Can you believe that? That's insane. All right, so the rest of this video, I'm just gonna get into some tips and things you can say and how you can kind of read people's signs and warning signs and stuff like that. We're just gonna do a really quick 5 minutes on warning signs, things you can do, actions to take, and hopefully that'll help save some lives, okay? So it's important to recognize that a lot of the times people who are experiencing suicidal ideation are going to use indirect language when talking about their thoughts, right? There's a stigma around suicide, mental health, and depression, so people aren't going to, most of the time, candidly say, I want to kill myself. They're gonna say things like, I wish I didn't have to be alive anymore, I'm a burden to others. And then one important thing to note here is that you can't really implant a suicidal ideation into somebody's head by speaking about it candidly, right? If you are scared to talk to someone about suicidal thoughts or ideation that they may be having because you think you're going to put that into their head like they hadn't thought about that and that's going to be something that you've done and encouraged them to do, that's not really how it works. People are either thinking about suicide or they're not. And it's better that you ask them the questions candidly and straight up than not ask and then something happens, right? Anybody can prevent suicide, anyone. You don't have to be a trained clinician to talk to someone to extend a listening ear and show some compassion. And a lot of the times that's all that people really want. All right, guys, and then I worked on some warning signs to look out for people who may be suicidal. So we're gonna go through them. I wrote a list. I'm gonna read right off the list. So speaking directly about suicide, that's an obvious one, right? But again, watch it, because not everyone's gonna be so direct about how they feel. They're gonna talk in like code because they're feeling shame, guilt, they're feeling a burden, and they're feeling like there's something wrong with them for having those thoughts. So acquiring a gun, stockpiling pills, unexplained anger, irritability, or moodiness. So this is one I can actually talk on. I went through a clinical depression in 2019 and I was feeling suicidal, and I had really, really severe mood disruptions and mood and irritability, and I would like fluctuate really quickly between moods. I was either really, really good or really not good and irritable. That wasn't like me at all, but that was definitely a symptom that I experienced that is a warning sign that most people miss. Clinical depression is obviously an indicator that suicidal ideation might be going on. Depression is the #1 reason that people commit suicide. So if anyone's depressed, you can try to give them extra time. Make sure that you're reaching out to them more than you normally would with one of your friends or your family members. Come over, always extend a listening ear and let them know that you're there for them. Giving away possessions is a really big one. So that's one that we actually were taught in the psych hospital. If people start giving their things away, that's an indication that they're obviously not caring about this world anymore and ready to move on. Another big one that people miss is a sudden interest or disinterest in religion. If someone who isn't religious goes suddenly very religious, that's a good indication that maybe something is up, right? The same with someone who's religious that no longer is religious. it's kind of backwards to think that, right? But that is an indication of suicidal ideation. Drug or alcohol use, if somebody gets way more into a substance use or drinking, that's also an indication that they're going through a lot of pain and they might not know how to express that or articulate it to somebody. This can also include relapses too. So somebody who was doing well and then they relapse, they're definitely more at risk for suicidal ideation than someone who hadn't relapsed. Being fired or expelled, any kind of big change like that in someone's life that's typically unwanted. Any kind of unwanted moves too. This could include like a teenager moving to a new city with their parents who didn't want to leave their school or their current friends. Or it can also include older people, right? So if somebody just finds out they're going to a nursing home and they don't want to be, that person could be at risk for suicidal ideation as well. Death or suicide of a loved one. Ironically, when suicides happen, they're close to you, somebody close to you is suicidal or does commit suicide, you're more likely to commit suicide as well. You think it would kind of be the opposite, but it isn't that way. The fear of becoming a burden to others. That's a big one, right? Especially when people are suicidal, one of their main beliefs is that you are a burden to others and you genuinely feel that the world would be a better place without you. So if somebody feels like somebody has a disability and they need to move in with their son or their daughter, or somebody has less mobility than they want and someone's taking care of them, that also is a susceptibility to suicidal ideation too. Anticipated loss of financial freedom, that's a big one. If someone literally is, like this is big, when the stock market crashed, the Great Depression, people were literally jumping out of skyscrapers. It seems like a silly reason to jump out of a skyscraper, but if your financial health is going down or if you lose a lot of money, that person's also at risk for suicidal ideation. All right, so just to wrap up this video, here are some really quick tips you can have for anyone who you may think is suicidal that hopefully will save some lives. Be persistent. Be persistent. Make sure that you don't just ask the person once. Be annoying. It's better to be annoying and really reach out to the person more than you think is necessary than for something to happen and you not having reached out, right? Or you only have tried once and they say, I'm fine, and then you don't try and something happens. Be persistent. Be persistent. It's okay to annoy the person. You're there to show them love and support and empathy. Talk to the person alone and in private. You want obviously not to corner them with 10 people because that's intimidating and scary and they're probably going to shut down. Allow them to talk freely without interruption. This is a really big one. The main thing people want when they mention that they're suicidal or reach out for help is just for someone to be compassionate and listen. You know, hold space for that person, give them all of your attention, let them know you're there, make sure the person knows that you're not bothering them or they're not bothering you. It's really important just to hold space and genuinely just listening compassionately can make the world of difference and save someone's life. And here are some questions you can ask somebody too if you think that they may or may not be suicidal. Have you been unhappy lately? Have you been very unhappy lately? Have you been so unhappy that you might want to hurt yourself or not wake up anymore? Are you thinking about killing yourself? You can candidly ask that, right? Do you ever wish you can go to sleep and not wake up? So this is important too. If you cannot ask the question, find somebody who can. Again, it's better to ask the question and be wrong about your assumption than to not ask and something happen. So this is huge too. When people are suicidal, there's a problem that they're trying to solve and they think that suicide is going to solve the problem. If you can listen to the person empathetically and find out what problem they're trying to solve, then you can come up with ideas together on how to solve the problem, right? It seems overly simple, but that is really the issue. Sometimes people have a lot of problems, they don't know where to start, right? Listen to them and empathize with them and give them the time of day to actually listen and figure out what problems they're having and why they think suicide is going to be the option to solve that. Offer hope. This is a big one too, because a lot of people say it's gonna get better, right? And that sometimes makes the problem feel worse, but try to find ways to offer hope in a genuine sense. If you know the person, talk to them about things they're looking forward to in their life or goals that they have, any kind of dreams that they haven't been realized. Try to get them thinking about the future in ways that they may have forgotten how to think about. So just to wrap up, the method is question, persuade, refer. The most important step here is that you actually question the person who may be suicidal. And if you can't ask that question, then find somebody who can. Once we start talking openly and candidly about suicidal ideation and suicide in today's society, we're going to see the numbers drop, because once you eliminate the stigma, people actually will seek help without any kind of shame or guilt associated. I hope that you found this video useful. Please let me know with the comments below. If you're interested in getting certified in suicide prevention, you can go on to the QPR Institute and get certified for $30. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully this video helps save some lives. You have a great day.